Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur, and today we are talking about Inter Miami's preseason opening loss to Alianza Lima, 3-0. What it means, does it matter? What parts do matter? What parts don't matter at all? And then also, we haven't done this in a week, actually 8 days. And since then, there's been some real player movement that people might have already sort of factored into their season. But Toto Aviles has moved on. Oscar Ustari, Luis Barraza. There's some players and team news that we got to discuss because we haven't had a chance to yet. But let's start with this. Saur, my friend, how are you feeling on this lovely Wednesday evening?
I'm kind of upset because I forgot to dance at the intro tune. And I've also had a very long week at work. And I just wanted to end, even though it's just Wednesday. Also, Inter Miami didn't win, which kind of puts me in a sore mood. But as you said, we'll talk about whether it matters or not. And then you're back. So that means I no longer have control of what we're going to talk about and what we're going to say. And all of those things combine to make a grumpy Saur. But anyways, great to have you back, mate. I hope your adventures saving the world were fantastic. And I look forward to this conversation. How are you?
I'm just thinking about 10 minutes ago when we were talking and I was the cranky one and you were the happy and jolly one.
I talked you off a ledge. That means now you have to talk me off a ledge. Yeah, okay. That's how it works.
I'm good, man. But yeah, it's been a while. I obviously had to go do some business. And so I haven't really had a chance to think much or talk about Inter Miami in a long time, which feels kind of weird. I did not get a chance to watch the game. I did get a chance to listen to your raw reaction, some of the other people that talk about Inter Miami, read a lot of the tweets and freakouts and Reddit threads and stuff to get a sense of how miserable they looked or the stream was or, you know, this miss or that deflection or getting beat on the counter or whatever. So I'm going to tell you I don't think any of it mattered, and you're going to tell me why everything was terrible. And so I think you should keep the grouchy mood for the next 15 minutes. Let's start with this. 2 years ago, Inter Miami played their first preseason game of 2024 against FC Dallas at the Cotton Bowl in Texas. And it was awful. It was a 0-0 draw, but it was one of the most boring games of soccer I've ever seen, and they were not good. And if you remember, this was like the most hype Inter Miami could have because in 2023, Messi arrived and they went on this great run, and then Messi got injured at the end of that season, and they didn't make the playoffs, but that was because Messi was injured. He comes back, and now we're getting into 2024, and it's like this team is going to try and be the best team in CONCACAF. We built ourselves up. We're very excited. We were so excited, we said, let's go start a podcast. And that first preseason game was so sobering because it was so bad. And then they went on to win the Supporters' Shield and break the points record and were pretty good. Last year, they started with a overtime in penalties victory against Club America. Very exciting, fun game, and they looked great. Then they went on, won the MLS. My point being, the last 2 years have been very good seasons, successful seasons, and they've had very, very different preseason openers. This one feels, having not watched it, like it was more similar to 2024 than it was to 2025, but I don't think it matters at all. What say you?
I think you make a fantastic point. The two of us have been watching football since we've been kids. I think we've been watching preseasons probably not that long, but still a while. Ever since we've actually had a conscious thought about following a team, we follow them from the start of the preseason to the end of the season. I've supported a team that has lost every single game in the preseason and then gone on to win 3 trophies. I've supported teams that have lost every single game, won every single game in the preseason, and then lost everything in the season. So it doesn't matter at all about what the result in the preseason is. This was the first game of Inter Miami. After 7 weeks of rest, of course, there's going to be rust. There's going to be cobwebs that you have to get off. Alianza Lima is a couple of games ahead in their preseason. They would have obviously been sharper, quicker to the ball. Inter Miami's traveling across continents. All of those factors come into play. And for me, the large overarching takeaway is that players get minutes, players get fitness levels up by playing those minutes, and then you tinker around with what you play, how you play, who you want in your starting 11. Even that, I think, is secondary. It's more about just building the team chemistry, especially when you sign so many new players, building the team fitness, and just going from there. In the grand scheme of things, this would not matter at all if we just go in that first game in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, probably against Nashville, and then just knock them out of the park. So you are absolutely right. There's been a lot of overreaction on social media, a lot of overreaction from fans in general. I think we're still in that preseason, well, we're still in that postseason playoff mood where we feel like losses are much bigger than they actually are. So for me, I think the result of this game doesn't matter at all. That's about it.
Well, certainly we won the MLS Cup the last time we played, and we were on cloud nine. And then, by the way, nothing about this offseason has been sobering if you're an Inter Miami fan. All they've done is sign really good players and added some really nice pieces that make you think, man, they're trying to repeat. And lots of people, talking heads, both at around Inter Miami or around the MLS, is talking about how this team could be better than last year. So in that environment and with that understanding, you kind of have these expectations. And so when you go on the field and they don't perform, it is a sobering reminder that these are human beings and this is preseason and that things aren't just easy and it's not just a video game where everyone is full health and full rating every single game. So let's talk about Luis Suarez, because I heard he looked terrible. Does it matter at all?
No, I don't
Okay,
think
good.
so.
No,
I
sorry.
think
I wanted to make it as difficult as possible for you because Luis Suarez, clearly it sounds like he looked terrible. Sounds like Yannick Bright didn't get great remarks. Sounds like there's a lot of players that didn't get great remarks. And so I want to
think
start by saying,
of all 11 players who started the game, I think maybe 8 of them were very poor and 3 of them looked kind of good. But yeah.
and then also I heard Lionel Messi looked great, or compared to at least everyone else.
Also, 30 seconds ago, I could not see your face because it was chopping up. So I genuinely thought you were asking me how Luis Suarez looked. So I would have given you a proper answer.
It's okay. My point in saying that is, I don't think the player performance for any single player matters, whether it was good or whether it was bad. And especially if you like a player or don't like a player, still shouldn't judge them. You know, if you like a player and they were good, I don't think it really matters that much. And if you hate a player and they were bad, I also don't think that's confirmation of what you were thinking. We're going to continue to see what these guys look like over the course of the preseason. And I think we'll get a better idea by game 1 against LAFC than we have right now. Which, by the way, is like 3.5 weeks away. Like, it's coming up. As far as fitness, I also think you kind of expect them to be sluggish. As you mentioned, they had to travel across the continent. Lima is not a elevation city. It's sort of on the coast, but you know, a couple, it's a hill higher than what they're used to in Fort Lauderdale. And so, like, I think it would be perfectly reasonable for them to not be in great shape. Only had 1 week of training, and like that makes a ton of sense to me. So I kind of don't think we should take anything away from it, really, from a player performance or player fitness perspective.
I think you might be absolutely right in this. One of the things that we do need to consider is Javi Mascherano going to, who he's going to play, who he's going to give the minutes to. But I think it's too early. There's just one game. We don't even know. We didn't even play some of the players that we just signed. Mikhail was unavailable. David Ajala was on the bench. I think the players that we've signed, it was only Dane St. Clair who started, if I'm not mistaken. Then Moura got an opportunity. And Reguilon, of course. But Reguilon and Moura both, like, Reguilon got injured. Moura came on later. So it was more or less the same. So even when you're thinking about team chemistry and stuff, none of that really changed anything. And it wasn't as though we saw something that was ultra alarming, that was new, right? We've seen these issues crop up with the 4-4-2 formation. We've seen these same issues of Inter Miami being beat on transitions the entirety of last season. And you're playing much of the same starting 11. So you wouldn't expect that to be solved immediately. Well, we saw Luis Suarez lead the line. There were a couple of opportunities that he had where he could have absolutely buried the ball. The game could have been completely different. I feel like we conceded one too many goals. Maybe it would have been nice to just not concede three, and maybe the scoreline flattered Alianza Lima a little bit. Inter Miami was worth a goal or two, maybe. But at the end of the day, again, it's the first game of the preseason. This team is building. I do have a point to make that maybe we will touch upon later when we talk about what actually matters from this game. But in the grand scheme of things, the bluff is none of this matters in terms of the result, in terms of what it means for Inter Miami season and how Inter Miami is going to approach the rest of the season or the off season. I think for us, it's all about gaining that fitness and then moving on to the next game. And hopefully we'll put a better foot forward.
Yeah, just to keep track of some of the things that I think are interesting over the course of this preseason that didn't really get answered in game one, at least it doesn't sound like that, is how do you replace Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets? Well, we didn't really get a chance to see what Sergio Reguilon really is, and so you don't really get any sort of information on that. We will talk about him more in a few minutes. But and then the other thing is how do you replace Sergio Busquets? And this to me is maybe the most, I keep coming back to this word, sobering, sort of cold water in the face thing about this game, which is, and we've said this plenty of times, but I think a lot of people forgot this. Sergio Busquets is a heck of a talent in build-up, in pace of play, in midfield creativity, in just helping you be a better overall team and unlocking opposition teams through, especially through the midfield, but also in the back line and also to help you break their front press. It was never going to be replaced. He was never going to be replaced. There's no player on earth that is anywhere close to fitting in Inter Miami's cap that would come and replace Sergio Busquets. The guys that can do that type of thing are playing for the best teams in the world, and they cost tens and tens of millions of dollars. So you kind of have to either recreate it in the aggregate or find different solutions to solve some of those problems. And what they elected to go out with, so it seems, is this 4-4-2 formation that was very similar to what they did last season, where they would have Sergio Busquets answering a lot of those questions. Now, from what I read online, it did not seem like Yannick Braden and Rodrigo de Paul. Yeah, Rodrigo de Paul did a great job of filling those shoes. But I also think that's an unfair thing to ask. I heard some people say, we'll just wait till David Ajala gets in there and he'll be the guy that replaces Busquets. That's not going to happen either. Like, just so we're perfectly clear about this, nobody is going to do what Sergio Busquets could do in that midfield, especially with the ball at his feet, but also just helping the team get organized. So they have to find a way to do things differently to get similar results. And so for me, the first big takeaway from this game is that they went with the 4-4-2. You and I have had this conversation for the past couple weeks, and I remember 3 weeks ago telling you I'm getting pessimistic about them switching to a like sort of more advanced 4-3-3 and trying to refigure and retool this thing. And you told me I was being pessimistic and wait till the preseason games start, and I thought that was a good point. It is back, and I thought they had been telegraphing that it was going to come back. And I do think this is one thing we can take away from that first game. They went with a 4-4-2. It's clearly not, at least, let me phrase it this way. It's clear that Javier Mascherano didn't leave the MLS Cup final saying to himself, we have to build something new for next year, and then spend the offseason trying to work towards that. And they are not making it a priority to find a different formation and structure. Because if they were, they would be trying to run that kind of stuff in preseason where they can work out the kinks. So that doesn't mean that we're going to stick with a 4-4-2 forever. It doesn't mean that we're going to, be inflexible over the course of the season. But I do think it tells us that they do not have a plan that is plan A, that is we are going to adopt a new structure to make this team work from day one. And that's my
I want to
takeaway.
take it back slightly to a couple of points you made. So when I was watching the game, I genuinely cannot tell you how many times I looked up to the left-hand side and I was like, oh, Jordi Alba is going to be there. Pass it to him. The ball goes into the middle. I'm like, oh, where's Sergio Busquets? The number of times I looked for them on my screen was a little unhealthy. And I feel like when you actually watch Inter Miami play for the first time this season, I know you missed the last game, you might have that same reaction. You can genuinely see the distinction in the personnel being different in the middle and on that left-hand side. And it's really it's sobering. And I do want to harp a little bit on that point of yours that Sergio Busquets cannot be replaced. He would have done certain things in that midfield that would have maybe mitigated for that 4-4-2. Jordi Alba as well, putting in those balls into the box. We're not going to have that this season. And that brings me to my point that I was about to make. Well, I thought I'd keep it in the pocket for now, but I should make it at this point because I think for me, one other takeaway was that this Inter Miami team might take slightly longer to hit into full gear and be the best version of itself than I initially thought. I think with the signings incoming, we got onto this hype train of this is going to be a fantastic Inter Miami team. The offseason has looked brilliant. We're bringing in some really high quality players to the point that this might actually be a team that's better than last season. I still think that. I still completely believe that this Inter Miami team has levels that it may reach that are higher than the previous season. But for me, I think it might take slightly longer to get there. And I think one of the big reasons for that is going to be the 4-4-2. I despised it. I didn't like it one bit. And that for me was the biggest takeaway. Why are you playing that 4-4-2? There's no need. You have enough bodies to play a 4-3-3. You can even play a 4-2-3-1 with Messi as that 10 with two midfielders and then wide players. I know he maybe didn't. Well, we didn't have Berterame, so maybe that's why he didn't go with a 4-3-3. And we played a lot of the same personnel.
Can I just say something? Because I see some of this in the chat. If they wanted to go to a different formation this year, they would have gone to it regardless of personnel. Because if you have to play one guy out of position so that the rest of your team can get experience and understand on this new set, this new formation you want to go to, you do that. It's fine. It's a preseason game. Like, there's clearly not this dynamic 4-3-3 coming next weekend. It would have started if Mascherano was committed to this idea. So maybe they will evolve into that by necessity at some point, but I guess that was my point. They did not.
No, I think you make a good point.
They did not have a plan this offseason to make that transition right away.
And they had all the personnel available to play that 4-3-3 even now. Yeah. Even if we don't have some of the available players like Berterame and whoever we're bringing in, I keep forgetting. But I still think you're absolutely spot on here. If he wanted to do it, he would have done it. And that's what's the slightly annoying bit for me, because this team is going to be different in a 4-3-3 compared to a 4-4-2. And you could see Inter Miami was getting beat on the transition in the middle. And that would have, I think, against the Alianza Lima team, it would have been fine playing a 4-4-2. But because we were so short of fitness, we were not up to speed yet. They just exploited that even more and completely ran us into the ground, which is fine. But I think the formation got exacerbated. And for me, that's the biggest takeaway. The formation is going to be an issue, at least until Javier Mascherano realizes that he can only get the best out of this team in a 4-3-3. Not looking forward to that.
Yeah, so to your point, this team could take a little while to find its best form.
Yeah.
And to Inter Miami's credit, they are bringing back a lot of pieces that they are familiar with, which will, I think, help in the transition or help them get there quicker, because they will have to figure out play style, but they will have a better understanding of each other. And so for Inter Miami, who's attacking this early part of the season with the CONCACAF Champions Cup, like, I do think that is, like, it was a good idea to do that. Yeah, man, I guess this has been my fear for 3 weeks now, is that they're going to run back what we saw last year. And I get everyone said we saw something different in the playoffs and they're going to go to that, and that has to be the future, and it was so beautiful and it was so brilliant. And it's like they weren't telegraphing that. And here we are. So I think it's okay if it takes them the next 6 weeks to figure out what they really want to do. Like, it's just one game. It's okay. I
Yeah.
would really be happy if they experimented with something else this weekend. Like, I also think that would be really good. Let's go and figure out, okay, we tried the 4-4-2. We want to see what everyone looks like in that. Let's do a 4-3-3, see what everyone looks like in that. Because this is the real crux of everything. As we mentioned, they don't have Jordi Alba. They don't have Sergio Busquets. They're not going to, however great Sergio Reguilon might be, he's not going to be as good as Jordi Alba. He's not going to provide what Jordi Alba provides. Same thing with Busquets. Nobody is going to provide what Sergio Busquets provides. So you have to find ways to still be successful without those players. And that doesn't mean doing your best to replace them. It means finding other ways to be productive. That's why I think they need a different formation. That's why I think the 4-3-3 makes so much sense. Because one of the problems, and I see some people in the chat worried about Dane St. Clair's footwork and his ability with his feet. It's like if you want to play out of the back where your fullbacks are playing high and you have two center backs and a defensive midfielder and you only have four guys in that pocket in order to pull the ball out of the back, you need your goalkeeper to be a big part of that. He has to be good with his feet. But if you hold some of your fullbacks back or you're coming back with two defensive midfielders, you're creating different triangles. You have a three-man midfield where all three of them can drop back to create a lane to progress the ball. There are other ways to build out of the back that don't require this sort of structure that we had last year. And that is going to be on Javier Mascherano. It's going to be slightly on Lionel Messi, I think, because as team captain, he's going to have to make sure these guys are working on it and not getting lazy. But it's really going to be on the coaching staff and these players to figure out patterns of play that are going to help them break down low blocks, break through midfields, break out of a high press, all the things in soccer that are fundamental that they used to be able to rely on Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba for. They're going to have to find other ways to do that. And that, I think, is going to be one of the most interesting things about this preseason. And that's why I want to see them try different things, because what they did last year is not going to work without those players, or it's not going to work as well without those players. If you want to get better and be better, you have to find something new that works to the strengths of the players that you have on this current roster.
To your point, I will say the chat is kind of right that Inter Miami did struggle to progress the ball. I'm not saying they struggled to build out from the back. I don't think that's a issue as such, not as much as people are harping upon, but Inter Miami did struggle to play out for the back. For me, that's the biggest issue in terms of losing Sergio Busquets. When you do have Rodrigo de Paul and Yannick Bright in the middle, you don't have the quality of Sergio Busquets to just keep the ball pinging, whether play it long or through the middle, breaking the lines. You have to somewhat alleviate Rodrigo de Paul's defensive pressure so that he's able to just focus on progressing the ball. When he was able to do it, it worked well, but Inter Miami very often struggled to move the ball forward. And I think they're going to have to figure out how to play, but it will come with time, right? This was the first game that they weren't playing with Sergio Busquets. This was the first game that Rodrigo de Paul had the primary onus of building the play in the midfield. So Inter Miami is going to have to tweak and tinker to understand, and the players are going to have to assume a different role this season. Some of the players are going to have more responsibility. I'm looking at Rodrigo de Paul in the middle. So it's going to take time for them to build into that, and it will come. But go on.
I guess my point is that it will come, but it will look different. It won't be the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
it would.
As a coaching staff and as a playing team, you have to figure out how to make it work, even if you don't make it work in the same way.
And then
that's the whole thing.
My last point in this was, I think this is always going to be a gripe of mine with Javier Mascherano, but this was a safe place. This was a game that you could actually try something different. Why go with the same formation you played the entire season when you could have you don't have all the players available. You do know that there's some issues with the 4-4-2. He obviously understands. Yes, if you want to play 4-4-2 off the ball in a defensive structure, that's fine. But when you're building up, you need that little bit of expansiveness. Try it out. It's the first game of the preseason. You're losing 3-0 anyway. So, I don't think I don't particularly like that. But again, this is just one game. I just read the chat as well. It makes me laugh.
So I think that's that's for me the big takeaway is like, and not just from that first game, but for this preseason, how are you going to figure out these problems? How are you going
Yeah.
to be creative through the midfield? How are you going to break through midfields? How are you going to ball progress? How are you going to break out of a low block, break out of a high press? And how are you going to break through a low block without the guys that have helped you do that so effectively over the last 2 years or 2.5 years? The first game, and I will repeat, I have spent 25 minutes talking as if I watched the game, and I did not. And I want to be very clear about that. But it just didn't seem from some of the sort of comments that they had a lot of innovative ways to do that. We didn't see a lot of new things, it sounds like. So the rest of this preseason, I think, is going to be watching to see how they develop in those ways. And I think a different formation just unlocks a lot of different ways to play that may be more conducive to this team. And that's why I keep talking about a 4-3-3. But even if they stick with a 4-4-2 or whatever they end up doing, they're going to have to figure these things out. And then the other thing that happened is our shiny new Jordi Alba replacement got hurt 15 minutes in. I saw the video, I saw a picture. It looked nasty. It's kind of like one of those things where you look at the other opponent and you think, this is a preseason game. What are you doing? And he gets a sprained knee. It sounds like it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before he's sort of on the verge of coming back. This is a player that has dealt with injuries in the past. So I don't think he's going to be the guy that gets a 6-week diagnosis and comes back in 3 weeks, which means that Inter Miami is going to start the season without him. What are your thoughts?
So sad for him, and I feel really bad because he worked a lot to get back to full fitness. He hasn't played in almost a year, I believe, maybe longer. And for him to get injured within the first 10 minutes, I think he felt something without even a contact, and then it got aggravated when he did go in for a tackle, and then immediately I've complained about the broadcast already, so I won't say it, but he has to go off. And it was just really, really sad to see. I don't want to blame anybody on this. I don't want to blame Sergio Reguilon on this. I can understand it can happen to anyone. And I'm just thankful that it's not a long-term injury. It's not a meniscus or an ACL or anything. It's just he has a grade 2 sprain. It's going to take some time to come back from. It would have been great to have him for the preseason because then the team would have learned how to play with him and he would have learned how to play with the team, where the patterns of play would have emerged. This team relies a lot on the left back to create opportunities. I don't know if that would have changed with Sergio Reguilon. He looked fine in the first couple of steps that he took, the first couple of touches, but it was just, it was really sad to see. I think it changes a lot of things for Inter Miami in the offseason. And you don't want a player getting injured in the first game. You don't want a player getting injured in the preseason. That's just the worst thing that could happen. I thought this was just short of the worst case scenario because he could have been gone for a long time. I wish he could have come off the bench instead of starting the game, but that's hindsight 2020. You can't really blame anyone for that. So really sad, and I wish him a speedy recovery. I hope he comes back earlier than expected.
Yeah, Miami did announce it was a grade 2 knee sprain, which generally is like 6 weeks before they can be back on the field. I think he's going to miss the first round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is pretty devastating. And then even at that point, he's going to have to build his fitness up. And that is something that's going to be a storyline even when he comes back for the first 6 weeks because he didn't play a lot. He didn't play at all for the last 8 months. So, well, maybe it'll be like signing a new player 6 weeks into the season. So what does that mean for Inter Miami? They, in that game, took Noah Allen, who was starting at left-sided center back, moved him over to left back, and kind of had the entire back line slide over with Ian Frey and Maxi Falcone playing in the middle and Facundo Moura coming onto the pitch as a right back. This tells me that Noah Allen is obviously the backup left back. We knew that, but I'm not sure there's an actual other option there. I don't know if that concerns you or not. Noah Allen is not an Iron Man. I wouldn't say he's injury prone, but he has had a hamstring issue last year that cost him a couple weeks that he got in the Club World Cup. Like I don't think he's a Sergio Busquets type where you just think he will play every game for the next 4 years if he needs to. And so There's a chance he plays every minute of every game for the next 6 weeks, but I'm not sure they really have a backup option. I think Tyler Hall played a couple minutes at left back last preseason. I don't know if Tyler Hall is involved in Javier Mascherano's brain or not. So Israel Boatwright, can he play as a left back? Can Ian Frey play as a left back maybe in an emergency situation? I'm not sure. Or do you think Inter Miami now has to think about going out and getting a left back? What do you think?
I think it's a bigger picture question and also a smaller picture question. Let's talk about the first 6 weeks. I do think Noah Allen's going to deputize. It was very telling that he moved Noah Allen to the left back position and then moved Ian Frey to the center back position. Didn't bring in Lujan. I thought maybe Lujan could have played as a left back. Moura could have played as a left back. So moving Noah Allen is obviously the obvious straightforward choice because Noah Allen is a left back by trade, and that's what I would have expected as well. I do think he will have to deputize for Sergio Reguilon for the next 6 weeks. I think the picture is much bigger than that because I don't trust Sergio Reguilon to stay fit enough to be our starting left back for the entire season. And okay, having Noah Allen as a backup is fine, but I also think you might have to alter the transfer plans a little bit and bring in maybe a center back who can play as a left back as well, a hybrid sort of a player. Because right now that position for me is very precarious. The quality you've already lost by having Jordi Alba leave. The one that you brought in to replace Jordi Alba is injury prone. So you're basically dipping into your second choice left back. Noah Allen is fine, but I don't know how much I would want him to play in that left back position in the key games. So I don't know. I think that there needs to be some change in the transfer plan to make sure that position is properly reinforced. What do you think?
I think they're fine. I think Noah Allen is plenty capable of handling that role. And so to me, it's more about, do you have an emergency option? Lots of people in the chat are saying Facundo Mora can also play left back. I will just say, once I read that Reguilon got injured, I kind of was hoping they would put Mura in at left back instead of making the entire shift, because that would have told me they definitely feel comfortable with Mura as a left back. Mikael, also a left-sided defender, so maybe he can deputize there if you need him to. So I would imagine they're probably fine. And if your question is like quality at the top, I think Noah Allen will be like, if he had to play there the whole year, I think he might be one of the 10 best left backs in the league. Like, it's not a position that a lot of teams have great. Like, it's just not a great position in the MLS. Teams don't spend a lot of money on it. Inter Miami over the last 2.5 years was like the exception to that. But Noah Allen is like a good player. I think he'll be fine. So I guess I'm not really worried about it, honestly.
But then it also changes the center back position, right? Because now if you're playing Noah Allen as a center back, now you're moving. Well, Mikael and Falcone, I think, are going to start regardless, so that's fine. But then you don't have a backup to that either.
Well, you have Ian Frey, as we saw.
Yeah, who didn't look particularly good, by the way, in that role. But again, first game of the season, don't want to look into it too much. Yeah.
You still you're gonna have an extra center back, whether it's Gonzalo Lujan or whether it's a different player that they bring in.
And I also think,
so I think
they're going to bring a center back regardless because they just lost Toto Aviles. So I do think they need to bring another center back anyways.
They don't have to, because that's who Mikael would have replaced, right?
Oh. Yeah, you're right. Did we not lose any other center back? I thought there was another center back we lost, but anyways,
we let Ryan Saylor go, so
yes,
but they drafted a new center back to replace him, so we'll see. No, I think bringing in another center back would mean Gonzalo Lujan leaves. Not they would bring in another center back and keep Lujan. Like, I think they right now have the numbers with Lujan, and then you just hope to upgrade at that point. So no, I don't think it changes anything for me. I still think midfielder and or forward, and then it will tell you what their formation would be. And I hope it's a midfielder, because that would tell me it's a 4-3-3. Okay, let's get into some old news. I don't even know how long ago this happened, but Inter Miami loaned Toto Aviles to CF Montreal. Oh, that's the other center back. Oh, anyways. They loaned him to CF Montreal. I've always liked Toto Aviles as a player. I thought last year he wasn't very good, but I kind of understand not being good as a 21-year-old center back when you get to play once a month. I can't understand why Mascherano chose to do that. I always thought the yellow card complaint was like he was over criticized for the yellow cards. People acted like like the yellow card issue made him a bad player, and that I thought was always unfair. And so for me, like I liked Aviles as a defender, and I thought when Tata was here and we had a better system, in my opinion, of helping young players grow and develop, Aviles got better month over month, month after month.
Yeah.
Not great last year, and there was no room for him anymore. We had 4 U22 DPs. We had to get rid of him. He was the obvious choice. They had to move him on. I have no concerns about that. And I kind of like the fit in Montreal. I kind of thought they would get him a move to Spain, if I'm being honest, where they would just lose some money on it, and maybe it would be the second division. But they've done a good job of getting guys that move, whether it was Kremaski or Redondo or whoever, even if it's not quite the team they wanted, to the level they wanted. This one going to Montreal was not really on my radar, but Montreal has done a really good job lately over the last 5 years of taking 20, 22, 23-year-old players in the MLS that have potential and really investing time and playing and minutes into them to help them grow, and then moving them on to Europe. We saw that with George Campbell last year, where he left in the summer a center back that was, an American, he was, I think, 24. But that's a guy that was their best player on the team. They invested a lot of time and energy into helping improve, and it worked. He ended up in the English Championship. Obviously, if you look at Georgi Mihailovic, they have a couple other examples over the last couple of years. So for me, Toto Aviles going there, it's a player or a caliber level that I don't think they would normally be able to get with one of their U22 slots. He's going to play every game, 90 minutes or thereabouts. And if it's anything like what they did, what he was doing in 2024, like he'll get better all the time. And maybe we are looking at a year or two from now where he is actually in Spain. And I'm not sure Inter Miami will make a profit on that. But I still think this could all work out pretty well for Toto Aviles.
I think it's going to work out really well. I think he's going to be a baller for Montreal. I really think this is a good move for him. I would have expected him to go to Europe, much the same as you. But I think this is going to be a great move for him, and he might have a fantastic, I don't know how long he's going to be in the MLS, but I hope he proves his worth, because I really like him as a player, man. He's a fantastic player. Always, second watch, he would always be a really good player for the team. Even though in the first watch you would think, he didn't really stand out that much. He's got the traits to be a fantastic centre-back if he's honed the right way and if he's given the opportunity. Last season, yes, I think he fell off in terms of how well he fit into this team, but also wasn't given the opportunities. And that's fine. Inter Miami did have to move him on. And for better or for worse, I think this will work out for him. He was pushed into a corner in the sense that he needed to play this season. He couldn't have just stayed in Inter Miami and expected to get minutes, because we're signing center backs, we're signing higher quality players. So fighting for his place would have been much harder. And he's at a phase in his career where he now needs to play regularly, game in, game out. And I hope he gets to do that in Montreal. Good luck to him. And we'll see how he proceeds there.
Yeah, I guess either Spain or back to Argentina would have been my expectations. I didn't really, or maybe Atlanta with Tata Martino. I guess I didn't really think of any other MLS team as a viable choice for him because he would have taken up a U22 slot, and most teams don't want to do that for a center back unless it's a center back they really believe in, and they've already seen Toto Aviles in the MLS. So maybe not a lot of teams would be interested. But CF Montreal, one of the teams that really could be because of just because of the situation there. He's going on loan for 1 year, which means theoretically he could be back next year. Montreal has a purchase option. We have no idea what the price of that is, or at least I didn't see a price. I don't. Is that gonna get triggered? Probably or not? Probably. They don't seem like a team that's going to spend $4 million on a center back. But maybe the buy options, $1 million plus $1 million in GAM or something. I don't know. Do you think that Toto Avios will be back on Inter Miami next year, even if not for the season, but at some point? Or do you think this is going to end up being a permanent move?
I think it'll end up being a permanent move because if he comes back to Inter Miami, he's going to be a U22 still, or no?
No. I'm sorry. If he comes back to Inter Miami, he could still leave from Inter Miami. But I guess.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you think Montreal?
I think he's going to move abroad. I do think his wishes are to move abroad, and I think he'll get that move. I hope he gets that move, honestly.
Yeah, I hope so too. Okay. Other news: Inter Miami made some goalkeeping changes. Oscar Ustari bought out. We've talked about this for a long time, and this will be my last ever chance to complain about it. So I'm going to spend 10 seconds complaining about it. The way they treated Oscar Ustari last year and the way they treated Drake Callender was an absolute shame. And I am glad that both players have been moved on so that I don't have to worry or think about it ever again. It was a terrible decision to give him that contract when they did. It made no sense at the time. It made no sense 2 months later. It made no sense 6 months later. And it didn't make sense when they ended up releasing him last week. Terrible decision. Terrible decision. He was not a good goalkeeper last year. And Inter Miami has gladly and luckily upgraded. And, you can be an assistant coach now. You can go back to Argentina or do whatever you want, but don't play in goal for me. And that's it. That's all I got on it.
What a journey he's been on with Inter Miami. Came in at the end of the season when Inter Miami needed a stopgap for the goalkeeping position. We didn't expect him to actually play any games, got one game. And then suddenly Inter Miami signs him in that offseason, which for the life of me, I didn't understand why. It was completely and utterly as though there was no pressure on Inter Miami. Nobody was torturing them. And they just decided to be like, we're going to make this happen. I think one of the worst signings in Inter Miami is post-Messi history, or Messi era history. And I'll be honest, I think. And I'm just glad that it's been rectified. And I'm just glad that last season proved to be a success despite Oscar Ustari's role as the number one goalkeeper on this Inter Miami team for large parts of it. That being said, he is a Heron. He's played for Inter Miami, so we got to appreciate what he did, man. And for that, props to him, and hope he has a good retirement / rest of his career, whatever he plans to do. I just think Inter Miami is in a much better place now. And boy, our bingo card has been ticked off like it's wildfire there, one after another.
Maybe we just know what we're talking about. You're right. Bringing him in last year even to compete for the number one job, I thought it was fine. Giving him that contract extension, giving him a huge salary bump during the season that probably kept them from adding another center back in the summer, like really did handicap their roster, and giving him a second year that you now had to use a buyout on was crazy. But because Inter Miami did that, and that happened as Rocco Rios Nova became official. So they had signed Dane St. Clair earlier in the month, and then once the Rocco Rios Novo deal with Lanús became official, they felt confident with those two, and then they could buy out Oscar Ustari. So that's what the wait and delay was on that. As soon as Rios Nova became official, Ustari got bought out. But Inter Miami still needed a third-choice goalkeeper, and they got one. And it's a pretty good one, I will say. Inter Miami signed Luis Barraza, who was the majority starter for DC United last year. Now, DC United did not get good goalkeeping play. I'm not going to pretend like Barraza is a good goalkeeper. But he is a guy that's played 50 or so MLS games. He's 29. He is an American. He will speak Spanish. He will communicate well. He'll be fine in the locker room. And he's going to be your third-choice goalkeeper on a supplemental roster slot salary. Like that's great. That's a great ad, I think.
He's won trophies with NYCFC, with DC. He's a winner. This is a great third choice goalkeeper. I think he has. Well, maybe he hasn't.
He
But he's
might
got
have been
pedigree.
on. He might be on the roster when the team
Yeah,
won,
yeah.
but I don't think
He's got
won.
he's got pedigree. He's been part of championship winning teams. That's all. No,
No,
in all
I
seriousness,
think
I
he
think
was. I think he was on the NYCFC team that won the MLS Cup a couple
yeah.
years ago. But he was a backup, not the starter.
Whatever said, I think this is a great pickup. Inter Miami doesn't need someone who's going to be too formidable in goal as a third choice. We got Dane St. Clair, we got Rocco Rios. No, we're very comfortable with our top two. We just need someone who's going to uplift the locker room, b assist where needed, and just he's here for the vibes, man. I really like this. I really like this pickup, and I'm glad that we moved on from 40-year-old Osto Stari to now 29-year-old. Right? Well, how old is he? He's
29.
fairly young. So I'm sure he wants to be part of Inter Miami's journey this season, whatever that is, whether we win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I don't know how many minutes he gets, if any. We should probably do an over-under on that as well. But glad to see Inter Miami make the right moves, because I could totally see them keeping Oscar Stario on in some capacity. Yeah, they've absolutely nailed it. They knew what they needed to get done in that role, and I'm glad they've done exactly what was expected of them. So well done, man. Kudos. I like this move a lot.
Will Yarbrough, who was Inter Miami's third choice goalkeeper last year, they signed him in April. And that is just to give you a sense, like what this could have been. They could have waited until the season started and then looked at who is the best American veteran goalkeeper that hasn't signed a contract yet and just signed him. And that's what they did with Yarbrough last year. This season, it's, middle, I guess, towards the end of January, they went out and got a guy to be their third choice keeper that probably would have been a second choice keeper on other, like he probably could have gotten a job as a second choice keeper in the MLS. So I love it. And as someone in the chat said, the fact that it's not a 42-year-old guy that's, has no intention
42, not even 40.
I think is fantastic. They nailed the goalkeeping position this offseason. They got a high-end number one. They got a very high-end number two, an MLS Cup winner number two. And then they got a guy who started 24 games in the MLS last season for their number three role. It is super impressive. So kudos to the team, the front office, for making that happen.
Do you think he plays? Do we even get to see him play 1 minute for Inter Miami this season?
You can watch him play like for DC United. That's the thing. He played last year. It's not like he's been a backup. Yeah. It's not like he's not played a game in 3 seasons. You know what I mean? He was the guy for DC United last year. So just go watch Inter Miami DC United highlights, and I'm sure you'll get a chance to check it out. To answer your question, no, I don't think they're gonna give him a chance to play because Rocco Rios Novo is gonna have to play a lot. I think Dane St. Clair, if I just to say it, I think Dane St. Clair will get the MLS. I think he'll get the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And I think he'll get the MLS Cup playoffs. And I think Rocco will get the Leagues Cup. I think Rocco will get the Campeones Cup. I think Rocco will get maybe 2 or 3 MLS games. And then obviously he'll be the choice if someone gets injured. But Rocco has done too much in Inter Miami to ever take away minutes from him to give to a third choice keeper. So, I'm sorry, I've seen this a lot in the chat. I'll just say this. A lot of people talking about St. Clair's Balkan ability to play out the back with his feet.
We've done this already.
I'm not going to address it.
We've done this already.
It's the worst conversation.
I will say he looks like he's got really long arms for his torso, and he does look a bit clunky, but I think he's a fantastic keeper. And he had a really good game, actually. He did well. He had a couple of good saves.
That's fine. I'm not going to entertain that conversation anymore. They convinced themselves it was important, and they cost themselves a trophy last year, maybe more, by going full force into a better with his feet goalkeeper. So I would be shocked if Rocco ever is the starting goalkeeper of this team. Really, I would be. And
I just want to say,
injury related, alien abduction related.
Football is also moving in a direction away from that Guardiola style of having it is moving away. And
I know.
I think Inter Miami's trending in the right direction. We don't need a ball playing center back. I know MLS is always tactically a
Goalkeeper.
step behind what's
Goalkeeper.
happening in Europe, what's happening in America. Is you need goalkeeper, not center back, goalkeeper. You don't need a ball playing goalkeeper. You need a goalkeeper who first and foremost can save goals. And if Dane St. Clair can do that, that's all I ask of him.
You know what could really help you deal with a goalkeeper that's not great with his feet? A midfield that will win balls in the midfield. So you can just kind of launch it forward and actually expect your midfield to win it back for you. Hard to do with 2 guys, much easier to do with 3 guys. And so maybe just another reason to go to a 4-3-3. Also,
we're just going to convince ourselves that Javier Marchano is eventually going to move to a 4-3-3, right? Somehow.
This is the thing. And you were just a couple weeks behind me, but it's the same line of thinking. We're optimistic about what the team could be.
Yeah.
And then we start seeing what they're doing and realizing maybe it's not going to be to our wildest expectations.
But it was still optimistic, though. But I think,
No, but that's okay.
That's okay.
That's fine.
That's okay.
We're the defending champions. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be an Inter Miami fan.
We are defending champions. Great point.
Yeah. We should spend more time just appreciating that. Yeah, that's great. That's cool. Last thing I have. Inter Miami added a 4th preseason game. It's going to be in Puerto Rico, which is cool. I've been to Puerto Rico, San Juan. It's very, very hot, but I never went in February. So I'm sure it will be much more fun to go at that time of year. They're playing Independiente del Valle. It's the 4th game of this preseason. It's going to come after that Barcelona de Guayaquil game. And I don't know. We're going to have a lot of the same conversations about what matters and what doesn't.
That's a pretty solid team as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's going to be the same. It's going to be similar to who we just played.
I also like South American oppositions or American oppositions because I think they play with a certain feistiness that will prepare Inter Miami really well for the rest of the season. Somebody mentioned in the chat, or I think in the comments to one of our previous episodes, where a lot of the MLS teams are preparing against college teams. Inter Miami is really testing themselves against some solid opposition. And I like that. I think we're going to be well prepared before the first game.
I don't know if it matters, honestly. I don't know. This whole thing is about what actually matters in the preseason. And I guess for me, maybe this is a better way to frame it. I want to see them do interesting things on paper because I think the form and the legs and the athleticism and the technique will all improve as we get into the season. But the brain stuff, the on-paper stuff, the what are we working on, where are we trying to find different answers, that stuff you work on in training, that stuff you can do on the clipboard. So those are the things I want to see get introduced. And, to Mascherano's credit, one of the things you can do is throw them out there, say, do what you think is best, and then go over it minute by minute with the guys and say, well, here's where you had an opportunity to do something else, or, here are a couple options you could have had instead, or here's a guy you missed, and so make sure you keep an eye on that guy coming out from the left side or whatever, whatever coaches say to their players. I don't know. But, there is a chance we see something much better or much more interesting tactically this upcoming weekend. And that's what I hope.
Yeah, I think it's the cerebral aspect of the game. You've mentioned it, but maybe that's just us as a podcast and the way we view football in general. So maybe we want to see what we like to see, and that's our bias. And if somebody wants to put credence into this first game and take away things that are more than what we just listed out, then sure, go ahead. But I honestly think the result doesn't really matter that much.
One thing I actually do want to ask the chat about is how did you think about the Super Draft kids? I know that 3 of them got an opportunity to play. Talabi and Kenan Hott are the 2 highest sort of drafted players. Gianni is also got an opportunity. But how did you guys think they looked? Because, again, I didn't really get a chance. And apparently Saur's computer was pretty blurry, so he had trouble telling who was who. So
honestly, I think Kenan Hott looked really good. Gianni could have had a goal, by the way. Keenan Hart had a really good ball into him. I know
Wait,
somebody who knows
so
Keenan Hart.
Gianni's not. You're telling me Gianni's not good.
Gianna, sorry.
Gianna.
Well, he had one opportunity and he kind of fluffed it, but he missed the chip. So
Well, I hear often that if you miss your opportunities, it makes you a terrible player. So
I don't want to put any. No, I don't want to put anything on that. Because
actually, the real thing I want to know is, did they look professional level athleticism? That's to me the thing that's most interesting.
it was hard to tell with the quality of the stream, but I will say Keenan Hart impressed me the most out of the 3 drafts. And I've heard good things about him as well. So we'll see. I don't know if he'll get an opportunity in the midfield, but
I'm joking about Gianna. Well, I think there's room for a midfielder if he can
Maybe.
improve himself.
yeah.
SPM is saying Ruiz looks good. Sean's saying Gianna has plus speed for the MLS. So that's I think, like, I do think the way the roster is built right now, there is room for a young winger to be on the roster and get a couple appearances. I think the same could be said for a midfielder. And a center back, really, especially if they move on Gonzalo Lujan. So, like, I think those 3 guys have something to play for. And maybe those are the 3 guys that are going to end up on the B team to start the year. And maybe they earn a first-team contract at some point. But I hope we get to see him again this weekend when I can actually watch.
I think we might. Who knows?
So we got 4 minutes left. Is there anything else on your mind, Inter Miami related?
Yeah, man, more signings. Bring me more signings. Everything has fallen quiet, and I don't like it. I like when things are bustling and hustling. I think there's one more. There's room for at least one more, man. Come on. There's got to be one surprise. Berterame still hasn't signed yet, which is, well, I don't think he's got his visa yet, right? He's been made official.
No.
Oh, he hasn't been made official yet. So, who knows? I'm excited for the rest of the preseason. I think Inter Miami is going to look vastly different in that second game. I'm excited to see what Javi Marciano does because, well, we'll know as soon as he puts out that lineup what we're playing with. I genuinely thought that he's going to play the 4-3-3, and I even tweeted it. And then 5 minutes into the game, I was like, oops, I may have counted my chickens a bit too early.
Well, let's talk about it because, okay, if Berterame, when he becomes official, he's going to play over Suarez. But that 4-4-2, like, I don't think you need to do that to protect Berterame. Like, I think you can get the max out of Berterame, even if he has a slightly different role. Obviously, Messi can fit into anything. Being in a 2-man midfield, I don't think is maximizing Rodrigo de Paul. Like, I think he's better when he has the ability to be both a defensive and an attacking player. And if he feels like he has to sit back or take on a huge building out of the back role, it's gonna take away some of his ability to get forward. Yannick Bright, I think, would be better in a midfield 3. I think David Ajala would look better in a midfield 3. I think Telasco Segovia would look better in a midfield role as opposed to a wide role. Like, I think this team is not built for a 4-4-2 anymore.
I agree.
So,
not just anymore. I think even last season, I don't think it was built for a 4-4-2. We could have made some of those comments last season as well.
Well, the thing for me is, even if I don't agree with what Javier Mascherano is doing, if I can understand what he's doing, I can give him the benefit of the doubt to say you've spent your whole life in this sport, and maybe you're seeing something that I'm not seeing, and that, like, I think that happens probably a lot. But, like, I do think the team is less prepared for a 4-4-2, or less. It profiles less in that formation than it does with the current roster. Pepto in the chat says 4-3-2-1. SPM also says 4-3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 4-3-1-2. I guess
4-2-3-1, 4-3-1-2. There's ways you can play around with.
Well, I'm not sure if 4-2-3-1 looks any different than what we're dealing with now, but
I think maybe it does because maybe not. I think it changes the personnel.
Unless you have Messi as the right winger.
Yeah.
But if you have, here's the thing: if you have Messi and Berterame or Suarez as like a 2-man front line, and you have a 2-man midfield behind them, and then you have two wide forwards that are asked to do a lot defensively, it's going to be a 4-4-2. It just is. So, actually, I think you need to restructure everything. Make yourself better in the midfield with 3 true midfielders. No Messi as your number 10. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, was that a good enough filibuster to fill those last 3 minutes? Someone mentioned.
I know you always want to end Yeah, we could have talked
SPM
about a
says
mascot.
we need a mascot. We never got.
By the way, what
mascot. We
happened
talked
to
about
that
it.
mascot 2 years ago? The
People
bird.
were freaking out about it.
You remember?
Yeah. People
Yeah.
got nightmares and they decided to scrap it.
You know, maybe we may have actually done our first podcast on the mascot. We may have talked about it. I'm not sure. I think we did.
Well, we
which is
definitely did, but
hilarious.
not our first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old
Anyways,
days, man.
Saur, any final thoughts?
Nah, we're back in the season, full swing. Let's go. Saturday, here we come.
Yeah, we'll be back before Saturday, depending on if they make any big moves. But until then, I hope you guys have a lovely night, a lovely weekend, and we will see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.